Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Cher Anderton, mental health therapist, trauma-informed educator, speaker, author, and founder of Cher Anderton Consulting. Known for her expertise in social emotional intelligence, trauma-informed practices, and creating lasting well-being in organizations and individuals. Cher,
Hello.
welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I am super excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So take me back to before you started your consulting company.
Okay.
What were you doing beforehand? And then what was really the motivation behind starting the company?
So I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, actually. I have four now adult children.
Mm.
And one of them, I was really introduced to the field of social work as we adopted one of our kids from foster care here in the States. And so he was almost 8 years old, and I was introduced to this new kind of line of work. So I went to graduate school thinking I was going to be just do therapy only, and follow this really circuitous pathway of saying yes to some interesting things along the way, one of which was working in schools. So I became a school social worker and elementary school counselor for a while. I built this therapy practice on the side and just started noticing some things. I'm teaching these 5 to 12-year-olds how to make and keep friends, how to set healthy boundaries for themselves, how to regulate their brains and bodies so they could learn. And I realized that as adults, we were teaching these kids and we had never had this formal education. And it showed. Like, the adults weren't having the hard conversations, yet we're asking 5-year-olds to make repairs when they had an argument on the playground. So just some kind of connections that I was making. And then after a few years in a school building, a consulting company actually poached me and
Okay.
brought me on to do some of that consulting work through them. And so I just kept saying yes to things that were presented that felt really good, even if I didn't really know how it was going to play out. And it just brought me on this windy path to then leaving the educational consulting piece, starting my own consulting business, and being outside of education. It's any organization, nonprofits, corporations. I just love to speak and teach
Mm,
these skills that we were never taught to be mentally, emotionally, and relationally. It's the really energizing, bucket filling thing. And
mm,
therapy can be that way. As a therapist, I'm a trauma therapist, and it can be lovely, but it's taxing. And so I like the balance in my career for sure.
100%. It sounds like you can also have a greater impact on more people
Yes.
outside of just one-on-one therapy.
Yeah.
Help the listeners get more context into what your business looks like today. Start
Yes.
me off with who would you say is your ideal customer?
Mm.
From there, we can dive into the different offers and services you provide.
Yeah, an ideal customer is really working with a leader and organization that gets this work. They want to stop playing whack-a-mole with their personnel issues, the employee attrition, the burnout. They really want to get underneath it. Maybe they don't know how, and so they bring me in to just help me. I can help them teach their teams these skills and really
Yeah.
make sustainable change. Again, we've just not had this formal education in how to be happy, healthy humans. It's
Mm.
wild to me. We're taught all these things like riding a bike, driving a car, long division, things that we don't use anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I really just love collaborating and partnering, seeing what the pain points are, but really the fundamental things that I teach apply to all of those things because it's at the root. We're missing this much needed toolkit, social emotional toolkit. So helping organizations develop that is just wonderful. So leaders really do have to get it though, because it's an investment and it's a long-term investment. This is really to see shifts in climate and culture and skill level. Depending on how much traction you get in the beginning, it can happen pretty quickly, but it is this kind of ongoing work. This is life work.
Yeah,
So
that's
those are my
huge.
ideal clients. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Can you speak a little bit in terms of what are the outcomes that you're driving with your clients in terms of potentially what their state is when they first start working with you and who they become in the state after they like the engagement ends, so to speak?
Yeah. Yeah. So the outcomes I'm seeing are there are a few things. One, folks who have never really dipped a toe even in any sort of personal development work. I tend to be I'm very disarming with I use really evidence-based practical tools and strategies, but I'm very disarming with it. I really like to make it relatable. And so the outcomes can be that folks get really engaged with the work. They get curious about it. Oh, that wasn't that hard. I learned how to pay attention to what I think, feel, say, and do. That was okay. Like I could go a little bit further. So it's been really neat to see folks engage with their employee assistance programs more. I was working with a large school district where a lot of the educators and folks were using those resources that they had in their benefits packages more. So the access to therapy, oh, I want to go a little bit further with this. Seeing a lot of relational improvements, the ways that they were caring for themselves, so relationship with self and relationship with others, when they were more self-aware and self-managed, which are really foundational skills, things just felt better. They had better ability to communicate in helpful ways. They were less likely to skip work because they were feeling mentally exhausted or burned out. So really just seeing more wellness. And again, this is a long game. So yes, we're seeing some things really shift in the beginning and the ongoing work, the sustainability of it, it does take a bit of time.
Yeah, of course, yeah, these things are transformations that need to happen and be consistent with over your life. But I think just bringing it to people's conscious attention is so important. I love what you said, think, feel, say, and do. And
Yeah.
I was actually talking with somebody earlier today about the importance of having congruence with, I think, what you say and how you act. So your
Yeah.
thoughts, words, and actions. But I like also adding the feeling element of it too. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, I'm sure you know this, but I don't know if the listeners know this of the electromagnetic field of your heart is 60 to 100 times greater than that of your brain. It's so powerful for magnetizing what you
Yeah.
want in your life.
Absolutely. And just you're speaking of kind of the embodiment piece. We overemphasize the intellectual, the
Mm,
mind, and the body talks to the mind more than the mind talks to the body. So
mm,
that electromagnetic field, our gut, all of
yeah,
that being in our bodies, and we feel feelings in our bodies, and that's where the feelings piece comes in, and our feelings influence our thoughts. They're all connected. And so
yeah.
that congruence that you're speaking to, another word I use for that is alignment, where it just we feel like that's all in alignment. I'm thinking, feeling, saying, and doing from a place of alignment,
Mm,
connected to my values and my beliefs. And there are a lot of things that can get in the way of us being able to do that because we're human. That's
yeah,
that's part of it. We're not going to be perfect, but that's where another skill set of making genuine repairs comes in and
yeah.
changing behavior. Yeah.
Love that. So walk me through your offers and services. What does it actually look like to work with you?
So folks bring me in for speaking events. I'm doing a keynote next week for a Chamber of Commerce. I've spoken at conferences. I'm talking about this much needed education to labor union professionals. It's really quite the range. Again, it's really any setting. So workshops, it can be half day, all day, 90 minutes. And then I have a membership platform. So there's a space with two asynchronous courses. One of them is based off of my book, Could It Be Better? And it's really that adult social emotional fluency education.
Okay.
Then I also have a parent education course on there. I'm a parent educator, parent coach. I think parents need a lot of support, and I just always look for vehicles to provide that support. And corporations, organizations are great vehicles for that because they've got parents on their staff. And we know that our kid issues bleed into work and our work stuff bleeds into home. And so just having more of that parental support, our country in particular doesn't do a great job of parental support. So there's those asynchronous courses. Then there's community calls with me where folks get to ask questions around the material and we dive deeper into the work. And this is a membership that organizations can purchase. It's a monthly, it's super affordable because one of my values is accessibility to this work. I don't love the gatekeeping. And so
Yeah.
really making it affordable, and especially for nonprofits, it's half the monthly subscription
Yeah. Yeah.
amount. Yeah, so I have this membership space. I can come in for a one time or a couple events, and that's what I love. I have a lot of different kind of pathways to do the work that I love to do, and it's been really enjoyable to see how they've woven together over the years to create something that is very enjoyable for me.
I love that. The parent stuff is super interesting. You give the listeners, because a lot of the listeners are entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
some of them don't. What are some tips around being a more effective parent? I don't know if the question is even a good question, but that's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, there are so many things that go into parenting,
Of course.
and you can have all the tools and strategies in the world, but if you haven't done your own work around being aware of how you're showing up, how you're impacting your kids, and then managing it, it's going to be really hard to implement all of those kind of tips and tricks for the parenting piece. So, the number one thing that I would invite parents to pay attention to is really get that social emotional fluency education because our kids learn by observation, repetition, and imitation. They watch us. Any parent knows this, hands down. They're watching us way more than they're listening to us.
Yeah.
So it's not that I grew up with the do as I say, not as I do generation. That's the exact opposite of the science of child development.
Yeah.
If they're watching us all the time, we really want to be modeling and teaching them this really important education that will set them up for success academically, socially, mentally, all of the things, even financially, because if we're not self-regulated, we're not going to make good financial decisions. We're going to be impulsive, we're going to overspend, all of the things. So
Yeah.
it just sets your kids up for success. So build, take care of yourself that way, learn it so that you could model and teach it would be my number one thing.
You said observation, repetition, and you mentioned something else.
Yeah, imitation.
Imitation. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I remember seeing, sorry, go for it.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was super long ago, but it stuck with me for some reason. I remember seeing this meme, and it was saying that one of the biggest thing that young men inherit from their father is how they manage their stress. So that's one of the biggest things that they inherit. So if they get angry or if they're calm, whatever it may be, there's a whole spectrum of how you can manage stress. They inherit that.
Yeah.
I'm curious it was a meme, so I'm
Yeah.
curious your perspective on that and what are some ways that we can manage our stress more effectively
Mm.
in life?
Absolutely. The research backs that up, just as far as even just paying attention to those terms of observation, repetition, imitation. And we do tend, I mean, there are lots of different family structures, but to speak to the kind of gender binary that a lot of us have grown up with, we do tend to look at the same gender parent. So,
Mm,
yes, boys are learning from their fathers how to manage emotions, girls from their mothers. And then, of course, there's a lot of nuance with that because I actually don't really believe in the binary, but the kids are watching. And we
mm,
really need to pay attention to giving them something to work with that's really helpful. So, managing stress is just part of self regulation. So, self regulation is acting in desired ways regardless of our emotional state. And when you lay it out like that, we have hardly any models for that.
yeah.
We see when you're mad, you leave a path of disconnection behind you because everybody should know that you're mad and why you're mad and all the things versus I'm really upset that this is happening and I can still stay in my brain and in my body and make sure that I show up in alignment per our earlier kind of conversation of just having my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. I can feel really angry in my body, but still present in a way that stays in connection with
Mm,
whatever I'm angry about. And we
yeah.
don't have enough models for that. And so this kind of goes back to the earlier invitation of just really pay attention to your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, get to know yourself really well. That can happen through a lot of different ways. There are great books out there. There are great podcasts out there. There are therapists, coaches. Just really dig into getting to know yourself so that you can then mitigate the stress before it gets so big. Stress is
Mm,
part of life. There's a author, I think her name was Kelly McGonigal. She wrote The Upside of Stress, and she talked about the stress paradox, that the things in life that are really stressful are also the things that provide so much meaning for us. So this business that entrepreneurs are just like, we build and birth these businesses, the parenting piece, kids are real stressful. But they're also, most of us wouldn't want to have our lives without them if we chose to have kids. So there is a healthy amount of stress. It's part of this life. How we manage it does really matter.
yeah,
And I would just begin with the self-awareness piece. Be really clear with what are you doing to manage stress and how can you pick a couple of different strategies to replace them?
yeah, I love that. When you think of your vision and where you want to take your company, do you have any specific goals that you're aiming towards, let's say over the next 12 months?
Yeah, I do. A couple, just more and more speaking and teaching opportunities for sure. It's just so enjoyable. I love it. I would really, big dream of mine is, I don't know if anybody's ever seen Billions, but the kind of Wendy Rhodes role of, I would love to just be the social emotional expert for organizations, partner with companies for a few years, really get them going and having just some helping them build a really incredible climate and culture that grows with them, that they can scale because people are skilled to be able to do that. They don't push back on change because they have the essential toolkit that they need to navigate the change better, to navigate the stress of scaling or mergers or whatever it is, that they can be more fluid that way and adaptable. So that's a long-term dream. It'd be really fun to build something like that with a company or
I
two
love
at a
that.
time. Yeah.
I love that. That's powerful. What is the best way for people to reach out to you to work with you?
My website is just shareanderton.com is a great way. There's lots of little buttons that you can click to connect with me or share at shareanderton.com. Email. I'm pretty easy to find when you type in my name online. It's a different kind of name, so I usually pop up right away. It's not too hard. Yeah, you just have to remember the TON on my name.
There you go.
At
Awesome.
SON, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. Any final words before we wrap up?
No, this has been a really lovely conversation. Thank you.
Anytime. So that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you reach out to Cher. You can email her, Cher@shareanderton.com. You can also go to her website, shareanderton.com. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or an agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to jump on a call with our team and discover how we went from zero to $30 million in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing.